Hi, my name's Mateo, and I'm here interviewing two people, Tish Lindstrom and Valerie Wood-Lewis, about the news that they get. So I know that news for both of you is very important. What kind of channels do you use to get your news?
Our family business is Front Porch Forum, so that's one of the first places that I get local news. And I also get the Sunday New York Times, and it takes me about the whole week to read that thoroughly, cover to cover. So I'm not necessarily totally up to date, but I've got a little bit of depth on some recent happenings around the world.
Sweet. What about you, Tish?
So I really like to sometimes get on social media. I have certain people that I feel like are very reliable sources, and then I will take one story and I like to dig into that through other sources and follow and track it. Yes. So I like to just keep digging into one source.
What do you think?
Story.
Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing now that for someone to be a reporter, they don't have to back it? It's not as serious. They don't have to back it up as much as they used to with fact.
Journalism-wise?
Yeah, journalism-wise.
So yeah, I think it's hard that it's shifted where our news is coming so fast and there's so much. And so sometimes you're getting a story that hasn't been well vetted. It hasn't been really checked out, and there's not many sources. Sometimes there's one. And so sometimes we're taking in things that really aren't anchored in truth or fact.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's a problem that you get so much news? A long time ago, there was no such thing as phones, tablets, and computers. So, if you got the evening news or the newspaper, that was all you got.
Yeah, I do think that people are overwhelmed with news and their attention spans are kind of fractured, and so that's why I self-limit and just, kind of get one thing that I trust and spend a lot of time with it. So I'm self-regulating in that way, but I am concerned about that fire hose of news that particularly kids are being exposed to.
What channels do you guys use? What if you had to sit in front of a group of kids and you had to recommend 3 channels of good news, what would they be?
That's a great question. I don't do channels because I don't do that. To me is a TV thing.
I mean, when I say
Any
channels,
sources?
I just mean sources.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say one of the things I would always encourage people is if there's a story about a group of people, to go look at that group of people.
Get those kinds of people.
So if it's a story about Muslims, to really be sourcing from the Muslim voice and community, to be understanding it from that direct line. That'd be one thing I would say.
Yeah.
What do you think of, do you think news, what's your stance on two different, kid news and then just regular news? Do you think that everybody should get the same type of news? Or do you think that kids shouldn't be allowed to get the actual news? Because I know there's some things where they modify it and make it goody-goody, not what it is. What do you think of that?
That's a really interesting question. I think it's overwhelming to get to get all the news in its uncut form. So, for example, the recent shooting in New Zealand, I think it's important to modify, but kids are then exposed to all of these other channels that are supplementing, if you will, not necessarily in a healthy way. So it's tricky. You can't really control all of the inputs, but I do think that it's important to be sensitive to not necessarily sharing every gory detail that's not necessary to know.
I agree with that, personally, me. Do you think that, what do you think about I know both of you know, I think about what happened in New Zealand, and I wonder, how do you think that New Zealand's, the news people have handled this? Do you think they've just gone over the rail by trying to, protect this white guy because he's white? Or do you think they've kind of handled it well? like the news stations?
That's a great question. I will answer from what I have seen around with the Prime Minister and how she has handled it. I think we're seeing signs of an empathic leader, someone who truly, I mean, she's grieving with the families. She is not giving any mention to this man's name because that's part of what he wanted. She is focused on the families. She's focused. She's wearing a hijab, going to this Friday. She'll be praying again with the families and really honoring the horrificness of what happened. And so I see great leadership there. I don't know how the news sources have followed that or not. I don't read a ton of news because, again, it's like it's over. It's just, there's so much. And I don't like headline news. I don't think we get what we need. And I would say that about your great question about kids. I don't think it's good for us to only get headline news. I think we need to have less and more depth. That would be my thought.
I know this is maybe pretty political, but what do you think what do you think it's like for what do you think it shows in the United States that New Zealand in all of 2 days banned assault weapons, and it's taken us forever and we still haven't done it? I mean, it took us 3 years, like almost 3 years to ban bump stocks, right? And we still like have all these assault weapons floating around. Like, what do you think about that?
Well, let's choose to take a hopeful stance and see that these things, it's not rocket science, it can be done, but the political will needs to rise up, behind it. So hopefully people can take inspiration from that story and speak up and out.
Super clear example has been made. Super clear.
Yeah.
No longer can say, oh, it's so hard, it's so hard. It's
Right.
like, been done. What's been done in New Zealand in these last days.
And And in other countries too, like
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Australia,
Absolutely.
Britain, I mean, all these places.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
opportunity
Oh
to
my
share.
gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mateo. It's been a pleasure. Can I shake your hand?
Yes.
I think I'll be doing autographs at some point. You can sign off, don't forget.
All right, well, it was great talking with you, and hope we can do that again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Watch your microphone.
And sign off now.
All right.
Oh, God, I didn't do that one.
Thank you very much. It's a wrap. That's a wrap.